Welcome, Margaret. You're the very
Hi,
first
Desiree.
person. Thank you very much for attending this Zoom meeting on tips for retirement. What's your best tips for retirement?
Don't retire.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, you, I'm working. I'm doing another whole day of work tomorrow in the kind of stuff I've done before, and I'll keep doing it because, and I got a variety of things. Like I went to my art on Friday. Uh, I just think this old-fashioned idea of retirement is an outdated view of the world, and we've got to change it. And I know that that what will be said, and the people have said it. Well, if none of us retire, what about all the young people coming up? And I'm thinking to myself, well, hang on, look at the columns in where there's people wanted for jobs and they can't get them.
Yes, but they also have that ageism is alive and well. So the older you get, the harder it can be to actually get a job.
Well, I think if you keep yourself, depending on if you've done physical jobs, carpet laying or things like that, obviously, yeah. Um, you're not going to be wanting to do your knees will you probably have knee replacements by now. So you're not going to want to do jobs like that. But I feel like it's very ageist to stop us working at something we're still good at.
Yes, although I couldn't wait to retire. When I was in my 20s, the retirement age was 60. By the time I hit my 40s and 50s, the retirement age was 65. By the time I hit 60, the retirement age for me was 67 and a half. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes I know what you're saying, but I think sometimes there comes a time where when you're doing paid work, even if it's admin work or that you say, I've had enough of this, I'm going to retire. But it doesn't mean that you stop doing stuff.
It's
That's the
age.
thing about it. If you can get a small paid job,
Mm.
great. But I'm thoroughly now, after I got over the initial headiness of retirement and then what would you call it? The boredom, having so much time on my hands,
Mm.
actually doing stuff. And, some people call it reinventing yourself. I don't believe that I've reinvented myself. What I believe I've done is expanded my horizons to incorporate other activities like the YouTube channel, like this Zoom meeting, like building Lego, like doing glide apps and that.
I'm quite intellectual in my. I'm stimulated by intellectual stuff
Mhm.
that you've got to really think about. Um, like going out for coffee, it's all right occasionally, but not that's your only thing. Like when I went to my art on Friday, a beautiful bunch of ladies, and all different kinds of, some have been teachers, some have been this and that. So you get to hear, but you all, and you don't just discuss art, but you talk about a lot of other things as well. And whilst doing art, and it's a good space to be more sort of able to be yourself, and you meet with others and you connect, you make connections.
Yes, and I think that's it. It's about incorporating activities that you really enjoy, like your
Mm.
art. Yes, you have some little paid gigs every now and again that you do, which is great because it gives you a little bit of extra income.
Mm.
Uh, but you do your art, yeah, I'm not talking about just going out for coffee. I don't go out for coffee actually. I refuse to pay for coffee
Well,
when
I
I make
meet
it at
with my
home.
friends.
But if you go with your friends and your friends are into like a little coffee group, and that's how you meet and greet and keep social and
We
keep
do.
connected, that all power to it. It's not something that I particularly do, but I do think that one of the strategies that I had was that I had something to look forward to, and that was the cruise. And that was a year in the making. So I had that to look forward to. Even though at times I still couldn't work out what the hell was going on, why I didn't feel all that happy or why I was feeling bored, I did have something to look forward to. And that was my very first cruise, and I had an absolute blast. The other thing I did was as you know, I repurposed my garage into a Lego room.
Mm.
And so now I've got some lovely settings that I've built that I can actually display in display cases. So I think it's about, so I'm now thoroughly enjoying retirement. Now I've got the YouTube channel.
See, I'm starting a writing group, but the writing group, believe it or not, what it is not about, well, it is about writing and how you write. And we have to get, because it's where I do the arts thing, and this is a freebies as well. It's, I can't remember what day it is. It's twice a month, and so because I was up there doing my art thing, and I said, oh, I keep seeing the writing group on the Facebook page, Mary Lindsay, you know, where we go for the art. And they said, what's it all about? So they explained it to me. I thought, wow, that's good. So what you do, you go and there's got a gallery there with all art in, you know, different people's art that who attend the place, and very good, really good, super quality stuff. So you pick a piece of art that you don't critique it, but just you talk about it. You know what it's made you feel, how you view it, and all sorts of things. So it's not about art critiquing. It's a very different thing. They're both two different things, and I'm looking really forward to that because, firstly, not only will it help you with your writing and maybe get better at it, but it also make you really and think about what you are seeing, what it really is, instead of just looking at a piece of art and going, oh, yeah, yeah, it's nice, great study, great brushwork and all that stuff. You've got to be more in depth. And I like that sort of thing. And you'll be with others as well.
Yeah, and I think this is it. It's about social connections in
Mm.
the interests that you really enjoy.
Yes.
And I think that's important. I think retirement, where you retire and do nothing, I think those days are gone because it's too boring. You've got so much time on your hands. It's way too boring to sit
It is.
and do nothing. However, if you can fill your days or some of your days with doing stuff that you really enjoy and socially connecting with people,
Mm. Mm.
that's what to me retirement is about. It's not about working a 9 to 5 job. I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. I've worked full time. I've worked part time. I've worked casual. I've,
Mm.
you know, uh, and so I'm over that type of paid work, but filling my days with doing, working on different topics for the YouTube channel or developing scripts or developing the videos or editing the videos, doing shorts of the long videos into what's called YouTube shorts, which is like 10 to 60 seconds snapshots,
Mm.
uh, and getting the Facebook group, trying to get that going. It's very slow. Look, it's all very slow, but it's very interesting. And but also
Mm.
having plenty of rest and maybe doing Lego or, you know, and I also attend Q&As and I'm part of a YouTube community.
Oh, what's the Q&A thing?
Well, the Q&A the community is called Creator Boost Tribe. And it's basically all newbie and experienced YouTubers, creators who
Oh,
are sharing tips and strategies or asking questions and getting responses. And they're very, very supportive. I found it a
mm,
very supportive community.
mm.
And Alexa, Sarah Jonah, I can't pronounce her name. She lives in Finland.
All right.
She started the Creator Boost tribe, and she
Oh, but that's only to do, it's not like, um, it's only relevant to people who do YouTubes and,
that with that particular community, yes. And then I'm also in another community which is low Q school, but that's to do with developing Glide mobile apps. So I attend their Q&As, Marco's Q&As as well.
mm.
So I have different things like that, and I get lots of different interesting information. So this is my first Zoom meeting to do with retirement, and I'm hoping to, rather than me be the expert, so to speak, that everybody who participates is an expert in their own lifestyle and in their own retirement and sharing the tips and strategies that they use, like you've just done in regards to your art group and the art discussion group and the little paid work that you do. So your tip is don't retire. My tip is retire, but make sure you have plenty of fun stuff to do.
See, I love having variety. I couldn't just do the one thing. That's why I like doing this work. You know, I'm off tomorrow to we're discussing, or it's about speak. It's something anyway. So it's an all day thing.
Mm.
And some of them I don't get paid for, but I don't mind that because it's stimulating. You're not only with others, but you are discussing intellectual things as well, which is always been something I like. But a lot of people my age or our ages, well, it depends how what they've done in life and where they've been and what kind of lives they've led.
Mm. I think so,
Um,
but I think what other tips do you have for retirement or strategies that you put into place?
well, what I would say is, and of course, I'm only talking about people coming up, the younger people coming up to, you know, getting into old age. You know, there was no super around when I was doing all my work in life. So you'll end up with not much in the way of finances. And um, that's a challenge, you know, because the way things are these days, you know, food, medication, doctors, and things like that. I'd advise people from as soon as they can work, young people, as soon as they go to work, make sure they've got a retirement fund because I tell you, it comes on you very quickly. You know, 1 minute you're there working solidly, and the next minute it's like, whoops, you're on an age pension. And if you haven't, well, in my circumstances, not that I didn't budget for it, there was nothing to budget. There was no super. Doesn't matter. I mean, I worked from the age of 14 and loads of, you know, really good quality jobs. I was in the Women's Royal Navy for 8 years. You know, there was no super there. Um, yeah, I'd never not worked.
Yes, and that's something. But when I turned 40, I thought about superannuation, and it only come in, or maybe 3 to 5 years before I turned 40, so probably around the 35 to 38 mark, year-old mark, and I started thinking about superannuation, which I thought was quite strange. And I've just recorded the video over 40 and gazing at the retirement horizon. What's next? And as you pointed out, finances are a big one. Like,
mm,
so my super, even though I had, so from 40, I had 27 years, but then I in 2014, I left a job and I found it very difficult to
mm,
to get another job because of my age.
yes.
And I was old enough to tap into my super without that I could do, unlike,
Mm.
if you're younger, you can't tap into it until I think you have to be 60 in Australia to be able to tap into your super.
I think you can tap into it if you become very unwell.
Yeah,
If you
I,
got
I think there's emergencies, but the
yeah,
normal
emergency.
super tapping into is around the 60 odd mark. But I had to tap into the little bit of super that I had in order to survive
Oh, yeah.
because I couldn't get a job. And so that became an issue and so I have very little super, even though I was paying into super, like a co-payment, um,
Mm,
an extra payment out of my pay,
mm.
but I've got very little super, so I'm really, like you, reliant on the age pension, and
Well,
that's a limited income. So there's limited
yeah,
things. There's things
limited.
it, would like to do, but there's things that you just can't do. But because see, I didn't have an emergency fund to cover me for the times until I could get another job. So that's the other thing that I would suggest if you haven't got an emergency fund at 40, start putting aside a small
Well,
amount of
the
each
thing
payday
is,
for an emergency fund.
all the jobs that I had, they were very crafty, and I wasn't the only one. There was a number of us who discovered the way they framed the employment, they didn't have to do super.
Yeah.
But then eventually it became illegal. The government caught these people out of what they were doing to us.
But they never paid you
And
back.
there was no holiday pay, no sick pay, nothing.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to pay super because of the contracts that we signed.
Yeah. And
So they're
that's the thing. You've got to
crafty.
be careful. But like you, I would suggest start putting aside into a retirement fund. Uh, well, super is compulsory in Australia. That doesn't mean the employers pay it all the time, I might add, depending on the
No,
employer. Um,
no.
However, if you can put, say, $10 a pay aside from the time you're 18,
Mm, mm,
or 15, depending on when you start work, into the super account. I think you've got to be 18 to hold an adult
okay.
super account. So if you did that from the time you're 18 and did that for the next 50 years, just $10 a pay,
Yes.
that's a fair whack of super, that
Trouble is, young people, I don't know what they're taught in schools about this kind of thing, but I feel that if they're not, they should bring it into the education, finances and financial literacy in to schools and talk about all this stuff and talk about the future of what they really need to be also looking at, you know, as you say, the horizon's far off, but
rise as far. See,
you
I
hit
didn't
it.
even think about I didn't, whilst I thought about retirement, I didn't think about retirement savings. I didn't plan for retirement. per se. I, as I said, I was 40 before I even thought about super, and maybe
mm,
a little bit extra aside each pay or have it taken out of my pay before I
mm,
got it. It just depends on your employer. If they're good at paying super, yes, you can do that. If they're not, you
mm.
set up the direct debit from your bank account to your super account to have the money taken out. Um, so, like you, super wasn't around when I was a young adult.
Oh,
It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. So I think it's a myth that us baby boomers are wealthy.
oh, it is.
It's
I know
absolute myth because a lot of us didn't have super.
a lot of us also, were bringing up children on our own because of divorces and all that stuff and landing up with nothing.
Yeah. And so the thing is that if they can do it, so that's why I think there's a book by Scott Pape. He's an Aussie finance guy, and it's called Barefoot Investor, the only money guide you'll ever need.
Mm,
No, it's not about investing in stocks and that per se. It's actually all the other bit about having an emergency fund,
mm.
getting out of debt, you know, looking at your super and that sort of stuff. So it's a really, really good one. And he's very passionate about he's also brought out a book, Barefoot Investor for Kids. And he's
Oh, right.
very
Good.
passionate about getting into the school curriculum and teaching children,
That's good.
teenagers
Mm,
about finance. He talks about the money buckets and, one for giving, one for saving, one for spending.
mm.
And
It's
he's
got to be a
very
balance, isn't it, really?
sorry.
It's got to be a balance.
Well, there is a balance. And I found when I read his book, that's when I ended up cutting up the credit cards. So I
I've
did
never had a
credit
credit
card,
card.
the credit card debt create every month, which sucks the life out of your finances, I might
I
add.
have never, ever owned a credit card.
Well, I had owned one since I was about 2021 until about 3 or 4 years ago.
The only thing I got on loan was a loan through the bank. Is it wasn't much. I had loads of money to put towards it after, changing cars, swapping cars over,
Yeah,
and that's the only thing.
yeah. Well, one
You
of
know,
the things is, there's an American guy, and what's he called? Oh, Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you've listened to any of Dave
no,
Ramsey's YouTube videos and
no,
podcasts. Well, he's along a similar ilk to Scott Pape and get out of debt, pay for everything in cash, you know,
absolutely.
and he has a range of steps and everything to do that. He's got a very big American audience because he is American, but his principles, like Scott's, it doesn't matter what country you live in, the principles are the same. It's about get out of debt and stay out of debt, and
Well, you
not
see,
have
I feel
credit cards. Use a debit card. If you have to have a credit card, don't have it in your
I
wallet,
feel,
in your purse.
younger
Hide it in your
people,
home.
younger people going in for houses today. Now, I look at it. I look at like um, people that I know, younger people who've got a mortgage and all that stuff, but they've also got, uh, maybe they're often paying either rent or mortgage. But
Hmm.
the thing is, all you constantly see up on their Facebook pages photographs of the food they've gone out for. They'd still go on holidays and all this stuff. we didn't do that. We couldn't because we were living within our means.
Well, that's the other thing is one of the biggest traps for young people and many adults is the afterpay type situations, buy now, pay later.
Oh, that's right.
That's
We
a
didn't have
trap
that.
because if you miss a payment or you don't pay by the due date, the interest
Mm, it's
astronomical.
astronomical,
Yeah.
and
And,
they don't.
and they don't realize just how big a trap that is.
Well, it's a lot of it's to do with social media. You look at the adverts on television, and it's like, oh, all these things that you must have to make your life worthwhile.
Yes.
And I was fortunately never like that. Well, I've, like you just, if you don't feel worthwhile without having lots of stuff and all the stuff that the advertising are telling you to get, then you've got to really take a serious look at who
Well, I
you
think
are.
consumerism has gone really
Mm.
ape in many ways. And it really is about you must have this or the thing for, I think it doesn't matter what age you are, is not trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Any other, we've talked about finances, we've talked about social connection, we've talked about having a little paid job, we've talked about art and having different activities and everything like that. Do you have any other strategies that you think
Yeah, absolutely.
retirees
Don't rely on family.
retirement need to have? Sorry?
Don't rely on family. Don't think, oh, I've got children and I've got this and I've got that. Yeah, family. Let me tell you, when it comes to the crunch, no. If you rely on somebody, you are putting yourself in a trap.
Yes. Family, some some families are close, some that, but then also too, adult children have their lives. They've normally got children or they've got very busy lives, even if they haven't
Yeah.
got children, to be worrying about mum and dad, unless they really have to worry about mum and
Mm.
dad. So you're right, family's not always going to be around when you want them to be around.
No, no, you're better off relying on a dog.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, I've always had dogs. I'm looking at one at the moment because I lost mine 2 years ago, and I
yeah,
feel so barren without a dog
yeah.
because they give you unconditional love. That's another thing, brings a lot of social connection because I used to go up twice a day to the dog park,
Mm.
or at least once a day, never failed with my little dogs, all of them. I had four of them in the end altogether, but not all at once. And I got lots of social connection like that. And I'd take Bella down to the Mindari Marina, and they've got a dog cafe there. It's a cafe for people, but dogs are allowed as well, not inside, but
Mm.
they've got doggy menus. You meet other people with dogs, and
Mm.
it's beautiful, lovely looking over the marina. It's all the water and the boats and things. So that I miss
Yeah. And that's
because
companionship as well,
that
isn't it?
got me out. Yeah, the dog was companion too. That got me out. It made me, made me do a lot of things.
See, I'm not allowed to have a pet where I live, but that
No,
doesn't mean that there's not animals around. I have kangaroos, I have parrots, I have miners. I um actually one of my neighbors has four kookaburras that regularly come onto her veranda to be fed.
oh, nice. That's
And
nice.
and that so there's plenty of wildlife around me without
Mm,
having a pet. But then again,
mm.
in a couple of weeks, I'll be house sitting four dogs. So
Yes.
that will be different. But yes, having a pet, whether it's a dog, a cat, a bird, a fish, or whatever, is
Yeah.
actually a good one. I suppose I could have a fish, but I've got nowhere to put the aquarium. So and that. So look,
Mm.
Margaret, I want to thank you very much for
Yes,
joining this meeting and sharing your tips and strategies. And
yes.
hopefully, I'll set up another Zoom meeting in the near future and see where we go
Yeah.
from.
I have to
There. We
say,
have a theme
but
and just talk on that theme.
yeah, I have to say that being mobile is one of the most precious things that you can have. Like a lot of my friends, they're with walkers, they can hardly walk, some of them, people I know. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Despite all my physical health conditions, some of them serious, I'm mobile,
Yes, yes. It
still
makes a
able to do everything for
very big
myself.
difference because you can
Yes,
get out and about. You're
yeah,
not housebound per se.
no.
Yeah.
And I walk well, everything. I can do everything. I'm very lucky because I've seen people who can't. And that on top of, age aging process, I'm lucky. Well, my parents were the same. Despite them both having cancer, they could do everything. They even with the cancer, they were mobile.
Mm.
Um, and it was only until my mother only 3 days. She on the day she died, or the day after, she was showering us. She did everything. She was in hospital. She could do everything. She wasn't immobile, which is, I think, not a good way to go. What she had,
Mm.
but yes, well, she didn't even know she had cancer until 3 days before she died. So
Mm.
that was a bonus.
Yes.
I think mobility, connection, companionship, financial stability, housing, they're all part of it because all of them impact each other. If you
Yes.
haven't got one, it starts doing, it's like a, what do you call it?
Domino effect.
Domino effect. Yes, we explained that the other day at this age peer support thing. If you haven't got one, it's a bit like the Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? You go up the hierarchy, and if you don't meet all those things, you've got no self actualization.
Yeah. Okay.
And we need to make a Maslow's hierarchy of aged needs after retirement.
It's a very good idea. Maybe we can work together on that
Yeah,
one.
I think that would be really good. And
Yeah.
and I'll look at. I've seen some other things. I might have to do a bit of research. That'll give me something to do. Do a bit of research online and
Mm.
find one because you can do a diagram, and
Yeah.
then things come off that. Because yeah,
Excellent. And I'd say housing would have to be the most immediate. The
well,
bottom
shelter
is
is the
the
first thing.
foundation.
Yes, you look at the pyramid and on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yes.
shelter is one of the first ones.
Yes. Yes. And on that
So that,
note, I want to say thank you very,
okay,
very much. Have a great evening. Have a great
yes,
day. And we'll talk again in the next meeting. Okay.
okay,
Thank
Betsy.
you, Margaret.
Yeah,
Bye
bye.
now.